Hi YouTube, this is Cypher back with a review of lesson 8 in my series of professional lessons with Michael. This lesson was undertaken on the 13th of November 2019. We are on day 120 and roughly 27 hours of practice. So I'm doing about half an hour of practice each day at the moment, and that's starting to pay dividends, both in muscle memory, strength in my hands, and also the toughening up of my fingertips. So I'm actually able to play for a good few minutes now without them hurting. They do still hurt, do still need to rub them down, but certainly my fingers are getting better. Now, I was hoping in this lesson that we were going to be moving on and doing more of the simple chords, so just the single finger chords. But I'd actually been practicing, as well as the ones that we did in the last lesson, I practiced a few of the others. And unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, Michael felt that I was getting on quite well with the simple chords and that I was ready to go on to the full chord shapes. My nemesis, the one thing that I really hate, the one thing that made me stop before, we're back to that. We're back to the wall. So we're starting off with some fairly straightforward and simple chords. They're all three fingers, and we're looking at the A minor and the E and the D7 and moving between them. So if we just take those three chords one at a time. First of all, the A minor. We're looking at putting our first finger on the second string of the first fret. We then put our middle finger on the fourth string of the second fret, and that needs to be probably about almost halfway between the two frets, because we also need to bring our third finger or our ring finger onto the third string, and we need to make sure that we've got some room in there without touching the frets. And then we're going to strum from the fifth string, so the A string, all the way down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Making sure that we have got a good sound on all 5 of the strings. Luckily, I managed to hit it straight away there. Whoa, we're on a roll. So once we've actually got our fingers in the right place, then we can just strum those chords. Now, I've actually brought my thumb over the top, which I got into trouble for in my lesson. I must remember to keep my thumb around the back of the neck. One of the things that I was doing is my thumb was coming over, and although we're not playing the 6th string, I was actually effectively muting that, which is not good. So remember, or I need to remember, to keep my thumb around the back of the neck, and then we get that nice chord. And again, as before, what I'm looking at doing is spending about a minute getting the clean chord. Now, when I lift my fingers off at the moment, I haven't quite got the muscle memory yet. It's something I'm working on, so I do need to think about that. Just caught the high E string there. Basically, my finger wasn't round enough. Take them off, place them back on. Make sure that we've got a clean chord. And just strum that for half a dozen times. Lift them off, back on. Make sure we got good finger placement. And then just strum those out for a short while. Fingers are hurting already. So that's the A minor, and then we can move up to the E chord. And the reason why we've chosen the A minor and the E is moving from A minor to E is simply moving your fingers up one string. So we move our first finger onto the third string in the first fret, Our second finger, our middle finger, is now going to be on the 5th string, and our third or ring finger is going to be on the 4th string. And then we're playing for the E all of the strings. Now we've got to start remembering whether we're playing the lower 3, the 4th string downwards, the 5th, or all of the strings. And the only one that I can really remember at the moment is the E string, or sorry, the E chord, and that's because if we're playing the E chord, we play everything, beginning with an E. So E is everything, and that's how I remember that we're playing all of the strings. And just make sure that you don't get the buzzing. Because our middle finger is halfway between the frets, we do have to press that a little bit harder than we've been used to. Remember, with the strings we only need to press them hard enough to get a nice sound, and until I started to introduce multiple fingers, most of my fingers were just behind the fret, so I didn't have to press too hard. Now I am having to press slightly harder on my middle finger because it is halfway between the 2 frets, and I need to get a clean sound rather than that sort of buzzy sound that we get there. So again, we put our fingers down and we're going to do this for a minute, and we're listening for a clean chord. So when we get the clean chord, we'll strum that for a few times. I normally do about 6 times. Take our fingers off, put them back on again, thumb around the back. So you can tell I've been practicing a little bit because my fingers are starting to go back down in the right places, but they are still very red and I'm getting very distinct lines on my fingertips. But one of the really nice things I'm finding is the lines are staying in the same place. So when I first started to do these chords on Wednesday, I would very often find that I would have 3 or 4 lines on my fingers. And as I'm getting a little bit better with the finger placement, then I'm finding that I'm just getting the single line on my fingers, which is really great. So that's the A minor and the E, and once we've got the A minor and the E chords under our belt and we can play those nicely, then comes the difficult part where we need to swap between the 2 strings. Well, the 2 chords I should say. So we go the A minor, then up to the E. And you can see straight away there, I've got some muted strings. Not too bad that time. That one was okay. Not too bad. That tends to be about as quick as I can go at the moment with those chords, and I'm trying to do a minute of the chord changes, both trying to get my fingers in the right place and also trying to get a clean chord. It's quite a challenge, quite a challenge. So that was A major to E, and then the next chord that Michael threw into the mix was the D7. And the D7, you have your finger, your first finger on the 2nd string of the 1st fret, your middle or 2nd finger on the 2nd fret on the 3rd string, and your 3rd or mid or ring finger on the 1st string on the 2nd fret. So you get like a triangle shape. That's the shape that we're looking for. And for this chord, we are playing the bottom 4 strings. So string 4, 3, 2 and 1. And just make sure thumb's in the right place, it's creeping around again. Just make sure that we've got a good sound on each of the strings, and when we have, just play those for half a dozen times. And we'll take our fingers off, back on again, making sure that we're not touching the other strings. And off, and back on again. Off, and if your fingers are hurting, mine are hurting already, just rub the tips of them just to get the blood flowing, just to move the skin around, and then we'll come back again for the same. Okay, they're not in the right place. I often find that when I rub my fingers and try and put them down, they go in the wrong place, so make sure that each of these strings are ringing out properly. Okay, the key there was I got my finger around, which meant I didn't have my fingers curled around properly and I wasn't quite on my fingertips. So if we bring my thumb around the back of the neck where it should be, then we get a decent chord. Off and on. And then we're looking at moving from the A minor, so we can leave our first finger in the same position, and this is why we're going from the A minor to the D7. We can leave our first finger in the same position, so second string on the first fret, and moving our middle and our third fingers up to string 4 and 3 respectively. And for the A minor chord, we are strumming from the A string. Just make sure that we've got a clean chord again before we start strumming. Fingers off and back on. And then try and switch to that D7. And then what I've been doing while I'm practicing this around about a minute at a time is I'll find the D7 chord and I'll strum that for 1 bar, so in other words 4 strums. Then switch. So that went back up to the that went to the A minor, back to the D7. Just listening out for any muted strings. And again, do that for about a minute on each one. And again, as I said earlier, we'll go from the A minor up to the E and back. So the whole practice session is getting a clean A minor first of all, then getting a clean E, and I do each of those for a minute, so that's 2 minutes. I then move in between the A minor and the E for a minute, and then we switch to the other 2 chords, which is the A minor to the D7, and we'll do the, basically I don't often do the A minor again for a minute because I've just done that. So I'll do the D7 for a minute to make sure I can get a clean chord, and then spend a minute changing from A minor to D7. And that tends to be the practice session that I'm working on right now, just to try and get these main chords as good as I can. Like I said, I'm spending around about half an hour each day at the moment. So I start off with my normal scale, Normally better when I haven't got the camera on, but I just run through the scale a couple of times, maybe one or two of the riffs if I want to, and then I'm straight into the chords. So that's my practice routine, and I will see you in a couple of weeks' time for lesson 9, hopefully. I'll catch you then. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe to support my channel. It's very much appreciated. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.